I don't know if this is exactly a question. I think this is relevant to the first question and the last thing you said, which is that when you do these things in China and India and all kinds of places that people want to play. I think there is an element of play and the opportunity to be able to do the things that we are all intending to do at work, but that take a very small amount of the time and energy we spend at work.
Yeah.
And so it's a way, I think, of making people more present and bringing to bear more of the capacities that they have towards meeting their mission, whatever it is. And I think it's the sense of play and the opportunity to use play that is often not built into the usual workplace. And I think one of the things that really I find interesting about these experiences is the opportunity to step outside the workplace and to engage with people in a way that does have those permissions built in. And I would agree that it doesn't matter whether it's the basement or not. You know, dank is not great, but if you have shared adversity, then you can do all kinds of things too, so you can make that work. I guess part of what the follow-on can be is the intentional follow-on that you're talking about of the calls and the connecting people up in the meetings and so forth. But I think one of the things that's sort of incumbent on all of us is how to make that opportunity for play and that opportunity for bringing those other parts of ourselves to work on a daily basis. And I don't know if you've got thoughts about how to do that, how we from here can go back and change the cultures in the places that we work. I know working in a big government agency, which is where I work, it's not the most receptive place on the one hand, but on the other hand, when you work with a bunch of scientists, what is science but open, curious, play with information and trying to understand things you didn't before. So I work in a fairly schizophrenic environment in that sense. The bureaucracy is against it, but the science is in favor of it. So if you've got some thoughts about how to sort of engender that on a daily basis, is sort of a long and rambling discourse, but I think that play aspect is really one that if we don't pull it out and actually pay attention to it, it'll get lost, and it may be one of the most important parts of this.
So, two questions. I'll answer the first, the aspect of play. I think if you're meeting institutional resistance to play, it's great to leverage an expert. I work with this guy who is sort of marketing and branding guru and has done incredible things in his career. And so he gets to say the craziest things and the dumbest things, and people are like, yeah, we'll do it, because it's him. And he's marketing, branding, expert guru guy, and I'm just Jeff or Barbara or whoever I happen to be. So I think part of getting play into play is perhaps getting permission from someone else. That's not a very complete answer. I'd have to think about it more. But I certainly think that's one aspect of it. Physical space is another aspect of it. I think it is. And then culture. And so this is a dissertation all by itself, but we could talk about that offline. But I do think getting other people to help you with permissions is an easy first step. The second question seemed to be related to this specific group, and on follow-up with this specific group. This isn't a collab. So a collab would be, once you guys have digested down to 1 or 2 deals, then we're driving home. The follow-up is very focused to your question. It's like, okay, you said you were interested in this part of the deal, financing, investment, technology development, we're going. The reason the Python exists is because the closer you get to an actual deal, the tighter the IP is. It's not open so that everyone can play. It's closing right down because there's commercial value or impact or scientific value that we're trying to extract out of it. In terms of this type of forum, I think the way you keep it going is by information, sort of content driving transaction, driving interaction between all of you. And that needs to be hosted. And I get the sense that that's what NASA is proposing to do, to kind of host that and to keep that going. That community doesn't start after the first event, so there's also a degree of patience there that's required.
Thanks, Jeff. How about one more question, and then we'll go on to Lisa, and so we'll have some time for breakout tables.
Hi, I have a follow-up question on that, actually, which is that you've talked a lot about the process of developing public-private partnerships. It's a very intensive process, and in particular, can often require a lot of very in-depth interaction, understanding needs and understanding opportunities where there might be space to be able to think of creative ways that your resources and our gaps and our resources and your needs might match up. And I'm thinking about that in the larger context of what we're trying to do today and over the course of the center, which is in part, taking that and thinking almost more along the lines of speed dating, or, kind of a much more mix and matched and multiplayer, multi-partnership type of outcomes. And so what advice would you have, both for the center and what we do with this afternoon, what we do in our breakout groups, as well as moving away from the center in terms of thinking about, successful models where there have been essentially more lightweight versions to be able to provide the relevant information that enables these types of communities to be able to collaborate and form those types of public-private partnerships. And maybe the answer is that it's always in depth and it's always intensive. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about specific models that you've seen be successful that maybe offer another way to approach it.
Yeah. This is tricky. Obviously, what we do as a company is to build those tools and those processes and so on and so forth. I think that the Colab, the Phase Zero, that type of work that we're doing, the Phase Zero specifically would work for this type of a group. And I'll post up some details on that on the NASA website. I think that what you've seen today, though, what we've seen again and again and again in the different presentations is there is no right way to do this or one way to do this type of work. I think that there are open innovation and social network type platforms that you can utilize because you're a distributed group. And I think those tools are openly available and you can leverage them without any cost to yourselves. In terms of the specific meetings this afternoon and advice for those, capture, who are you speaking to? What are they interested in? How can you kind of then take that down to another opportunity? I think keeping kind of broadcasting to a minimum is really helpful in these types of discussions like this afternoon. In other words, I'm ex-government agency and this is what we do, and this, those sort of endless presentations that can come out kill the discussion. I think a very brief sort of, this is who we are, what we do, and then questions and answers, probing, discovering, exploring, looking at those 4 C's, capital, capacity, credibility, creativity, and seeing how you might be able to leverage the people around the table. It's a fairly opportunistic process. The way we handle that is we provide people with cases up front so that they understand the shape of this type of relationship, and then we facilitate them in conversation, and then we capture those conversations. I think the facilitation piece is huge. You have your pirates and your shepherds at the table as well. I don't know if that really answered your question, but we can roll on.
Well, thanks, Jeff, very much. I appreciate it quite a bit, and for you coming today. And this is a brief token of our appreciation. We have a montage for you as well. So thank you again.
I earned it then. Thank you.
Before we move on to Lisa as our final speaker of the day, I would just recap a couple of things. One is we did want to expose you a lot of different ideas today. One of the thoughts in bringing the members of the center together is everyone probably has a different experience from none to a lot in terms of open collaboration and innovation. So we did want to plant the seed of a lot of different ideas and models. I think the next time we'll definitely have more breakout sessions for you, but we'll have met each other and have come around together on some ideas. So for this afternoon, though, please get as far down the road as you can. You've met a lot of interesting people. You've connected with a lot of folks you didn't know before. Group at tables. We'll have breakout tables with some with themes. Some are just open, create your own table if you'd like. Go snag a few people that you met and sit down. We'd be interested in capturing some ideas you already have from the folks you've met about what sort of collaborations could emerge from here. And if you want to think about it and send them back later, please do that, because as Jeff mentioned, we are hosting this. We have a website. We're going to continue to mature and improve the website. So it's not intended to be one meeting and nothing happens. It's one meeting and we keep the conversation going through virtual means and other means. So please even send us the ideas back, and eventually we'll have a project area and a members area to connect as we keep going. So this is by no means just stop today. So we'd really like to get your thoughts and feedback this afternoon and at any time after that. So we've introduced Lisa before. I'm going to ask Lisa to come back up and talk a little bit more about the General Mills model, and then we'll have you go to your breakout session. So Lisa, thanks very much.
Thank you. So thank you for having me here this afternoon. I'm excited to tell you a little about our connected innovation journey. Most of the time speakers hate to be the one who's between the audience and the bar, but there's so much excitement here. I feel like I'm the one who's between the audience and the breakout groups, and you all are chomping at the bit to get there. My presentation is a little bit more nuts and bolts, I will say. It's, by no means do we have this open innovation thing figured out. It's a matter of trying things and benchmarking others, but we've had a few years to try a few things, and so I'm going to share with you our connected innovation, some of the things that work for us, and hopefully you can learn something that you can apply as you develop your programs. So before we begin on our journey, I'd like to just give a little bit of explanation about why we believe connected innovation is important. And when you look at the environment and the world that we are doing business in, it's clear that it's imperative to do connected innovation. There's the growth of the dollar stores and the club stores are changing the environment for retail food companies. You've got to do more innovation more often. The global expansion means there's greater opportunity, and there's also greater opportunity to collaborate with minds across the world. And as always, there's always many more opportunities than resources. Where do I point this? So the other thing that we've found is that, no surprise, not all the smart people work for General Mills. A lot of smart people work for General Mills, but there's even more smart people who work other places. And so by tapping into those minds outside the company, we can better our innovation. And then the third thing that's happening in our environment is that as any large organization knows, you don't always know what you're working on. And so that internal collaboration part is also important. And that's why we've gone from moving this to calling this connected innovation rather than open innovation. But the why, I think, is maybe even better illustrated by the results that we've seen. And this is why we are continuing along this journey and why we feel like it's definitely worth the resources that we put into it. We find that of our product launches that are significantly externally enabled, there's almost twice the marketplace return. And we think this is because we're able to go to market faster, because we aren't doing all the development ourselves. We aren't installing all the capital ourselves necessarily. It also encourages, it's a way to do lower risk exploration. A lot of the bigger opportunities are ones that are adjacent to things we do or completely different from what we do today. And so to do that all on our own would involve a great deal of risk, resource risk and capital risk. But to do that collaboratively with others means that you share that risk. You rely on your partner's expertise, your partner's capital, so you can do lower risk exploration. It gives access to incremental resources that I talked about, and that all adds up to more impactful product launches. And so that's why we do this connected innovation at General Mills. So today I'm going to share with you some lessons learned along our connected innovation journey. And the first one is know what you want. It sounds really simple, but it's sometimes the hardest step. You have to define the problem in a way that can be understood by people looking at it. You have to define it in the right way. So the example I'll give, are you looking for a salt replacer or sodium reduction? The next one is break down the walls. This is often the hardest. This is a big culture change. and a group of technical people who were raised to invent and protect. It's very difficult to change the culture to tell people everything and to have this open communication, but that's clearly the foundation of what has to happen. Build a connection mindset. This is moving the mindset from invention to connection and changing what people think of as what the value they add. The next lesson I'll talk about is think evolution rather than revolution. Again, these are big changes, and so organizations can swallow them in smaller bites. The next one is demonstrate some quick wins. Nothing will convince the organization faster that this is a good way to go than to have some tangible results. And then don't stagnate. Continue to think about how to improve and reinvent your programs. Today's great technology won't look so great tomorrow. You think about how many of us still buy film for our cameras. So I'll start with the first one, and that's know what you want. And I'm going to use an example of sodium reduction here. And it all starts with the consumer need. And in this case, the consumer need is I want less of the bad stuff in my foods. And what we do is we take that consumer need and we translate it to a business need. And in this case, a business unit, in the example being the Cazneau Group, says we want to offer a line of reduced sodium soups. And that's the business need. But the next step is translating that to a technical need. And this is where it's easy to trip up, because technical people, we're all problem solvers. We like to jump in there and solve the problem. And it's easy to say, we need a salt replacer. But that's a great problem statement, but it's not the technical need. And so the technical need is, as written here, I need to reduce sodium without negatively impacting the taste. And this is written, you'll notice, in that contradiction form that some of you, that Craig actually alluded to in the creativity. The problem statement as a contradiction is a very powerful way to state a problem. And this is, I need to reduce sodium without negatively impacting taste. And once you have the technical need, then you can write, oh, I think I turned it off, the problem statement. Oh, there it is. Then you can have the problem statement. So, and in fact, there are multiple problem statements. A good technical need can generate many problem statements. And we have sessions that we go through, hypothesis workshops, that we take the technical need and we approach it from as many different angles as possible to come up with as many different problem statements as possible. And these problem statements are the ones that are translated into our innovation opportunities, or what we've been calling challenges here. So that's knowing what you want. But it's not enough to know what you want. If you don't tell anybody what you want, they can't help you. And so you've got to break down those walls of communication. And this is important in any kind of innovation, but it's critical to this external innovation. And this is some feedback that we got before we started on this journey. And you can see that each of these is a missed opportunity. It's a chance for something to have happened where it didn't happen because there was a wall, there was some kind of block in communication. And so we have many different ways of communicating our needs now, and our philosophy is to communicate what we need as broadly as possible to as many people as possible, as well as targeting specific people who we think will have the answer. And I'll go through some of the ways we communicate them. One is playing cards, and we have all of our needs on the website are on these playing cards, which is a portable version of a very abbreviated version of the needs statement. And we take these to conferences and things, and I'll talk a little bit more about those later. And then we have briefs. In the upper left is our one-page brief format that explains the need in greater detail. Those are all posted on our website, which is the upper right corner. And those are available for anyone to see. Anyone can go to the website and see. And then we also go to town hall meetings, trade shows, conferences, and we go there and we talk about our Connected Innovation Program. We talk one-on-one, we talk to groups, we talk about it in as many different ways as possible to explain to the world what we're looking for. The next lesson is moving from that invention mindset to the connection mindset. And this is, realizing and getting people to believe that the next big eureka invention doesn't have to come from within General Mills. That the important thing is finding that invention and connecting with the right person. And so we are encouraging all our scientists to move their mindset from I'm in the lab, I'm inventing things, that's my job, to I'm out there in the world, I'm connecting with scientists and engineers, wherever they could be, people who have some kind of perspective on my problem, and even connecting with colleagues, suppliers, universities, across this whole spectrum of connection. And as we've been more on this journey of moving on this mindset from invention to connection, we've developed 3 buckets that we focus on, the 3 buckets. And the first is internal collaboration. How do we get better internal collaboration so that everybody who's internal can help with the problem? Second is, how do we increase our collaboration with trusted partners? And then the third is, how do we increase our collaboration with new partners? So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those 3 buckets. So for internal collaboration, one of the things we do is our annual technical conference. And for 2 days of the year, we close down our 2 technical centers in Minneapolis, and we bring in people from the worldwide R&D centers, and we have a technical conference. It's become a really big deal for our organization, and it's structured like a regular scientific symposium. People submit abstracts, and then it's organized and happens 6 months later, and there's poster sessions where people can present the latest developments and talk, and then there's presentations where speakers come and talk about what they're doing, and it encourages a lot of collaboration. It's become a very critical event. But 2 days a year is not enough to internally collaborate. So we also have this electronic collaboration tool we call Tech Connect.